let's begin by talking about last week's announcement, the Avengers cast, and what the deal is really with Marvel, this movie, etc., etc. I think that last week's announcement certainly brought some excitement, certainly made some waves out there on social media. And, even if people like myself didn't really love the way the announcement went down, you kind of can't deny it did some serious numbers. It got people talking. Okay. Having said that, there's still a lot of questions for us fans. And I think this community in particular, our community, I think some of the stuff we're most interested in is why those names and why not some of the other names. The names that we all expected to be there, the names that we're pretty sure are going to play a big role in that movie. Well, over the weekend, and this might have even started late last week, I'm not sure, but a ton of stuff. Daniel had a ton of stuff out there for his Patreon people and, behind the paywall. And we're starting to get a picture of what's going on. Okay, so this is pretty crazy. Check this out. Big RPK exclusive Marvel scoop. I mean, this guy can't even spell Marvel right, He does have good info, though. The reason they only announced some names for Doomsday and not others is simple. They wanted a big announcement to mark the start of production, but haven't finalized deals with everyone yet. So they only revealed the actors who are locked in. Wow. Okay, so that's kind of interesting for, I think, multiple reasons. Okay? What this shows is that Marvel Studios has absolutely signed a bunch of actors to do this movie. All of the X-Men are signed to come back that were in that announcement. Basically, everybody that was in that announcement, 100% signed to be in the Avengers Doomsday film. And that's cool, and that's exciting, especially, when it comes to some of the X-Men names. I think Sir Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen probably being the most exciting for me. And we talked about last week, and we've speculated about how that's going to fit together. The video I dropped later today will go into great detail about how that's going to fit together with the X-Men and some of the rumors about Doom. But, so, that's cool. It shows they want to start building hype for this thing right away. And so far, the marketing schedule for this has felt a lot more like the other Avengers movies, whether it was Infinity War or Endgame, right? So there's this sort of built-in idea that these are a super big deal, and I think they want to let the public know that they're a big deal. This shows that they're doing that. But if it is true, and I think it is, that they are only using actors that they have signed with, it means that they are potentially using this announcement to put some pressure on some of these other actors. I know that might seem crazy, but just walk with me on this. Let me cook on this, okay? As it stands right now, Marvel Studios is staring down the barrel of a lot of different problems when it comes to Avengers Doomsday. If you will notice, one of the things that insiders kept saying last week when it came to the Spider-Man piece of this was that they didn't know if Marvel could afford him. Which I find to be really fascinating, actually. It kind of runs counter to some things that I had heard, where I was like, dude, I thought he was locked up for one more Marvel movie regardless. And I thought he had a new contract. Didn't we report that he had a new contract? What the hell? Does he not have a new contract? This is crazy. So anyway, point being, Tom Holland. He was left off of the names last week, and yet a lot of the rumor mill and a lot of the people that we follow said Tom Holland, Spider-Man, huge part of this movie, very important, etc., right? Now, one of the most curious reports after this initially came out was Jeff Snyder, who said that Spider-Man 4 takes place at the same time as Doomsday, which I don't even think is true, but we'll see, because it's not like Jeff is making this up. He has to be hearing something and then maybe misinterpreting it, or maybe I'm wrong and he's right. We're going to find out. But I trust my instincts on this. I don't think that's actually correct. But he said because of that, and potentially because they can't afford him, Tom Holland's likely not to be in this movie. I actually caught Grace Randolph giving a similar attitude in one of her live streams where she said, we'll see if Marvel can even afford him. Kind of offhanded comment. But when you hear multiple people that are, have inside information start to talk about, can they afford him? And then you get this report from Daniel here. Pretty interesting. So what that probably means is that Tom Holland is just being this whole thing is a tough negotiation for whatever reason. And he hasn't 100% signed on to be in the movie. Now, this part here, I want to be very clear. This part here is very speculative, but this is one way that I could make sense of this. Because I was like, okay, well, what the hell? He has this contract with multiple appearances. Why wouldn't he be in Doomsday? What would be how could they hold that up if he's signed to be in the movies, right? Well, what I think is if you sign a multi-picture deal, there's probably still some agency on the talent side as far as what projects are they actually going to be in to fulfill their contract. Meaning, Marvel, Sony, and Tom has agreed that he's going to do this many movies. However, it doesn't mean that they've 100% agreed that Doomsday is one of those movies. At least that's my interpretation of how this deal is and what's going on, okay? Maybe that's a little inside baseball. And again, it's speculation. We don't even know if it's true, right? But here's the important aspect of it, okay? Daniel added to his report and said, I have confirmed Tom Holland is in talks for Doomsday. There's just no deal in place yet. Okay. So when you combine this piece of information with the first piece of information, which is that they only used actors that they had 100% locked in for Doomsday, and you consider the fact that like Tom's in this negotiation setting, they're trying to do all of this stuff, I think it probably means that he will be in the movie. Like, I honestly cannot imagine a scenario in which he's not in the film. And by the way, I saw this take that Jeff had on Twitter where he was like, all these people are using all of this logic, but they don't understand scheduling and budgets and all this other stuff. And look, like with all due respect, like when it comes to Marvel and particularly with the Avengers movies, like, yeah, I think you do throw a lot of that shit out of the window. You throw the conventional wisdom out of the window. And that's just due to the history of the studio. It's due to what they've been able to accomplish before. They filmed a shit ton of Spider-Man before the official Sony Marvel deal to allow Spider-Man to be in Civil War was actually finalized, right? So, like, you just look at the history of the studio. This is how they operate. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me that Tom's not completely 100% signed for Doomsday. I mean, it is a little surprising just given how he would seem to be such an important part of the movie. But that is, as far as we understand it, where things stand with Tom Holland. Now, in a worst case scenario, if he's like, you know what, I will do a bunch of movies, but I'm not feeling Doomsday, which again, like, imagine that. I have so much trouble believing that is true. I think maybe one of the only ways that could be true is if Jeff's actually right and the movie takes place congruent to Doomsday, which, again, I cannot imagine being true. But if it is, that would potentially explain why or how they could pull that off without Holland in Doomsday. But I just got to say, the conventional wisdom here, throw that shit out the window when it comes to like how studios have operated before Marvel. If you look at Marvel's exact history, none of this is really that shocking. And, you know, even this idea right here, right, where, you know, Daniel said about Avengers Doomsday, production started, but not filming. They're still building sets. Filming only starts in April, and they still don't have a finalized script. So, like, again, this still don't have a finalized script. Bro, Iron Man 1 didn't have a finalized script when they filmed it. I'm not saying you have to be, like, totally down with it, but it's disingenuous to not acknowledge that the vast majority of Marvel movies were created without a finished script when they went to shoot. So this is not abnormal for how Marvel makes their movies, right? But yeah, everything is coming together somewhat last minute. They have the ideas. They have a lot of beats. They probably don't have a finalized script because they're probably adding to it every single day, trying to fill out scenes, give context, try different things, right? So with all of that in mind, what's the main point? Like, what am I really trying to say here? Well, I think last week when that announcement happened, and this is in my opinion, this is by design. Marvel is doing stuff intentionally to throw off the rumor mill and the people like you and I that follow the scoopers and the insiders. That's what I think is going on. I said that last week. I continue to believe it. And so, you know, you're hearing all this stuff about the deals and everything that's happening with Tom. I just can't imagine a scenario in which he's not in the film. Okay? Now, let's take this a little bit further. Another big exclusive from Daniel. I hear Halle Berry is close to finalizing her deal to return for Avengers Doomsday. Okay, so very, very similar to everything we just talked about with Tom Holland. The reason Halle Berry's not, her name is not on one of the chairs is because she has not finalized her deal to be in the film. Now, you know, this might just be natural, though. This could be natural. And I know things are like really close, but they're filming this thing for like 5-6 months. They've got time. They've got time to sign Halle Berry, get her in some scenes, have her do some cool shit. It's going to be okay, right? But this is another scoop that is somewhat aimed at the exact issues that fans had last week. When we looked at those names, we were like, dude, what? We're missing some names here. We're missing Jean. We're missing Storm. You know, we're missing Tom Holland Spider-Man. Where's Benedict? Where's Elizabeth Olsen? And some people, like this, I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, and maybe I'm just crazy. You tell me if I'm just crazy. But I keep noticing that the way Marvel is releasing stuff, and potentially even the way their actors and actresses are speaking to the press, is almost exactly counter to a lot of the narratives that we believe is happening in the film via the rumor mill and the insiders. So we thought those X-Men were going to be in there, right? And then it's like, okay, but they're not all in there in the thing. It's like, okay, how does that make sense? We thought Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be in there for sure. We thought Elizabeth Olsen was going to be in there for sure. They've both said they're not in the movie. Benedict walked it back. She didn't. She keeps doubling down on it. And then they're not on the chair announcement either, right? I don't know. What do you think Benedict signed? I think Benedict signed. I think he's signed. I think he's good. I think he actually is going to shoot a lot on this movie. Why wasn't his name on the chair? It's the same thing. They haven't exactly finalized the deal. No. This could be part of the story here from Daniel, but this isn't the full story. The truth is, I think there's an element here of misdirection. And I do think this whole marketing thing with Marvel leading into the next two Avengers, it's going to be fascinating to see because the Russos were not really around when leaking culture became what it is now. Their movies were leaked. Infinity War and Endgame were leaked. But at the time, the culture was so... I mean, frankly, it just was that a lot of people just didn't believe it. I read the full-ass leak for Endgame like 2 weeks before it came out, and I couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, dude, what? Fat Thor? Get out of here. This is fan fiction. What? Professor Hulk? Stupid as fuck. And then it happened verbatim. But it wasn't until after those movies that the leaking culture started to build. And now we know fucking everything about these movies because, like, you just get, like, a sea of leaks and rumors, and you can kind of bounce it off all the reliable people, and you come out on the other end pretty much knowing what's going to happen. So I've been interested for a while to think about how would the Russos approach this? How are they going to approach this whole leaking culture thing? Now, one thing Marvel's been doing, Marvel does like fake scripts and puts out fake info. So do you guys remember when Alex Perez said that you were going to see Jean Grey and Wanda fight in Deadpool and Wolverine, and then there was going to be like Magneto in it? Do you remember that? Well, that was a fake script that got leaked out there. And actually, Ryan Reynolds admitted that they did this later on. He was like, yeah, no, we put out like some fake leaks, fake scripts to try to throw people off. But like pretty much like instantly after that, all the scoopers figured out what that was. And now they have a way to test it to figure out if it's actually true. So like it's almost like hackers versus cybersecurity people. Like it's this constant game of like leveling up. And it's really interesting. Main takeaway is I think you're getting Tom Holland. I think you're getting Halle Berry. I think we're getting all the people we thought we would in Doomsday and in Secret Wars as well. I think they're going to figure it out. I would be absolutely shocked. I would be flabbergasted if Tom Holland's Spider-Man is not in this movie, given everything I've heard about it. I just don't know how that would be possible. Okay. All right. So thanks for watching. And if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel, on the podcast feed.